Hello and welcome to Smitty's. I am a wood cutting fanatic who loves to run a chainsaw. I run alcohol chainsaws, ported chainsaws, I race chainsaws, and I even run the occasional vintage. Now remember, I cannot do this without you. You're everything to the channel, so please remember, subscribe, give that thumbs up, leave that comment. Today, we are going to have a lot of fun. So how you doing? Hey, the actual subject of today's video is going to be about chain, but in a way, it's not. So let me explain. You see, I built this Holtzfforma 50 with a Partner 5000 top end. Today's actually going to be like moving it closer to its finished final results. So if today checks out, the only thing left to do to this saw is to play with the timing advance. I've never done a timing advance on this saw, so I wanted to make sure I had a good proper chain for it and all that stuff. So, you know, I wanted to do all that before I got into the timing advance, because up till now, I've been running this horrible safety chain, semi-chisel, all that stuff. And today we're going to start, actually start running it with proper chain. I finally broke down and got some chain for it. Now, one of the things to mention here is it is a different bar. This is the bar I plan on running for the racing. It is a roller nose. So yeah, we're moving into a roller nose bar for this saw. We're going to try two different chains. So in a way, this video is going to be comparing two different chains. We're going to compare a stock Stihl 23RS to a stock Holtzfforma. I can't remember what they call their chain. It's a 325 chain. There are no safety features about it or nothing. They do both have different profiles. I'll try to show you that. But one of the things I want to talk about is the chain in a racing situation and some of the rules that are out there, because some of them I don't agree with. So let's start with comparing these chains, and then at the end here, I'll tell you a little bit with what I don't agree with and some things that I think might change in the future. They might. We'll see. Again, this is kind of like my opinion on the matter. So where it comes to actually making the rules and stuff, my opinion don't really matter, but it is my opinion in an area that I think the rules on the chain should change. So yeah, what do you say we get on with this? We are going to run, I think this is the Holtzfforma chain. Yeah, this is the Holtzfforma chain. It is straight out of the box, kinda. So I bought a roll of this chain. So this is freshly spun up. I bought a 25-foot roll of this. I like cheap chain because it's cheap. You know, a 25-foot roll of this chain is $100. You know, how many chains can I get off of that roll? You know, and today I want to kind of see how it compares to Stihl's 23RS. Performance-wise. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the factory edge don't really mean a whole lot, because the first time you sharpen it, it's all on you. So only like 5% or less of the chain's life is out of the box. The rest of it is all up to you. So, you know what I mean? That's why I'm not too worried about it. It's just because, it's most of it is up to us to get it properly sharpened. But we're going to give this chain a run, and then we're going to switch it to the Stihl 23RS and give it a run and kind of see how they compare. I got a new muffler on this saw. This is my Angry Man muffler mod that you guys have seen before. I finally got it switched over to that muffler mod. I've been curious that the old muffler mod may not have been open enough, even though it had a big hole out the front. I have a feeling that creates kind of these turbulence inside the can that might interfere at the really super high RPMs. Just kind of curious about that. This muffler, and all my previous times that I've done this muffler mod, the saw always went a tad leaner. So I'm hoping that, this muffler actually flows a little bit better and helps clean up some of that breakup in the top end. It was kind of having this breakup like you were running lean or rich, but you weren't running rich. You know what I mean? And I got a feeling it might have just been the muffler. It could have also been the coil. It could be a number of things, but we're gonna see if this muffler mod makes any change there. So what do you say we run this saw? She's fast, she's a 13,000 RPM saw. So let's see how she does with these two chains. Alrighty? This is the profile of the Holtzfforma chain straight out of the box. You can see her there. One of the things I want to talk about is how the rules apply that you have to run round chain, but technically when you buy chain, I mean, does that working corner look round to you? That's one of my nitpicks about the rules, is that you have to run round chain, but technically there's nothing round about the working corner of that chain. It's the same thing with pretty much every out of the box chain you buy. You know what I mean? And that's what we're going to discuss here in a little bit. But that's the Holtzfforma chain. Let's see how she performs. I can't help it, that's a pretty sweet setup right there, that roller nose. Look how much that chain stretched already, just in 2 cuts. There's my new muffler, and she's running fantastic. Let's get this switched out to the Stihl 23 RS now. Now this is the Stihl 23 RS. As you can see, it looks closer to a round profile. But if you get real close in there, you can tell it's almost as though it's a double grind or something, because the area right under the top plate, like if you can get up under there, you'll see that there's nothing round about that profile. It's almost as though it's like a square grind, but the corner is rounded out. That's what it reminds me of. But anyway, let's see how this one goes. Alright, now we're going to have to line them up because I couldn't tell a difference. I couldn't tell a difference cutting, running the saw. So we'll see. We'll see how she goes. But let's get on with this discussion about chain and some of what, I don't know, I think we might need to think about changing the rules, or at least my opinion in it, if you know what I mean. Alrighty, so my thing about this whole rule, see, there's a rule saying that you have to run the round chain. So your options are to run something straight up out of the box, or to run something you sharpened, round. You know what I mean? Round file, round grind, whatever. My problem with that is that it's hard to find a manufacturer who sharpens the working corner in a round profile anymore. For example, C83, probably one of the fastest out-of-the-box chains you can buy. You look at that working corner, there's nothing round about that profile at all. In fact, you can almost duplicate it, but you have to start with square on the corner, and then you have to come in with a round file or a round grind or something, and work the gullet to a point that it appears round, but the working corner is square. That's kind of the way C83 is. And, you know, to have the rules set up to where you have to have round chain, but then turn around and say, yes, you're allowed to run C83. And then the rules will say that you're not allowed to run steel hexa. So it's almost as though you're allowed to run a square working corner, but your gullet has to be round, is kind of what it sounds like. You know, for somebody like me who's really getting deep into that interpretation, that's the way I would interpret. You know, you're allowed to have a square working corner as long as the gullet is rounded off to look like a filed chain. And that is what you call a heck of a gray area. I am sure there's people out there who look at rules like that and interpret it that way, because, you know, just some people think like that. And to me, I feel like that's one of those rules that should be changed to allow everything, including square chain. It would make things easier for the judging and all that. It would basically level the playing field. You know what I mean? So you might have some folks out there who are like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a square chain, but I'm going to work the gullet just to the point to where it completely appears like it's round. You know what I mean? Then the only way you'd be able to tell is if you really got up in there and looked close at it. But at a quick glance in a race situation, nobody's going to know it. No one. In fact, there could be 20 minutes from the time you make your cuts to the time you get it inspected, or even longer. You got more than enough time to run back to your truck and throw a different chain on. That's why I feel like, you know, I feel like that's one of the rules that should be probably changed. Not because I think we should be allowed to run square as much. I feel like it would make it easier for the judging, make it easier just all across the board. Because that one side of it, they can completely forget about. Don't need to worry about it. Square chains allowed now, so we don't need to worry about inspecting any of that stuff. You know what I mean? Now, I guess one of the things is that they want it to be more like a firewood competition. Me personally, if you're going to allow ported saws, especially at this performance level, you know, should it really be considered firewood? I would say firewood style competition, but I mean, we're racing. It's a race. It's just, you know, it's like trying to build a race car, a drag car, and saying, yeah, you can build a drag car, but you have to run the same tires as what they pull out of that, put on that car stock. You know what I mean? It kind of like, you can build a hot saw, but you should really, you know, putting the right tires under that car, you know, putting slicks under it, doing that stuff to help it go fast. It's part of the equation. And I feel like it's one of those things that would make it easier for everyone if that rule was just hit the road. It would level the playing field too, because you always have somebody who's going to want to try to push it to the limit, especially the rules and stuff. They really try to push them, and some of them will try to cross them and just hope they don't get caught. This is one of those things that if you remove that rule, it makes it an even playing field for everyone. Now, as far as keeping, you know, round profile and chain in a firewood competition, to me personally, that should be like a stock saw class, personally. Not on something built for, you know, competing, especially, or racing. I think it's just one of those things, you know. It doesn't make sense to me. I'll put it that way. It does not make sense to me to have the rules set up like that. And I know there's other people out there who think the same way as I do. It just, a lot of folks don't say anything because of the respect, out of respect for the people who make the rules. And I'm just putting this out there just to kind of get you in that mindset. Maybe you'll you'll start looking closer. I mean, if you really want to stick to that rule, that's going to be one of the issues, is catching the people who are crossing the line. You know, do you really have time to do it? Because I sure as heck wouldn't want to do that. Because right now we're looking at what? You'd almost have to check the fuel to make sure they're not running anything funky. So the only way to get away from that is to literally provide all the fuel and have them empty their gas tank right in front of you. Turn that sucker upside down, make sure there's nothing in the gas tank. You supply the fuel and they run the race. That's the only way to get the fuel, to make sure the fuel guidelines are followed. And then you got your bore and stroke regulations. Well, the only way to do that is to physically measure the bore and stroke of the saw. And then you got the chain regulations, and that can be a pain in the butt watching all that. And removing those chain regulations, I feel, would make things a lot easier for everybody. And the folks who don't want to run square, hey, you don't want to spend $30 on a file. Sure, I understand it. But if you're going to spend money to build a saw for racing and show up at the races and then complaining about, you know, spending $30 on a file, it doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? But anyway, I guess you could say I kind of went on a little rant here. There's these two chains. We'll see which ones perform better. I don't know which one performs better. I'm kind of curious. I couldn't tell a difference cutting. So they seem pretty close to me. And hey, you know, I'm pretty happy with it. Like this steel chain you're seeing here, this chain is going right back in the box and getting saved for the races. The Holtzfforma is going to go back on it, and whenever it gets dull, I will put a square hand file on it, and I'll be running it with a square hand file or this 23RS, one or the other. And those two chains will be saved for this saw only. I mean, even this bar, it's a 64 driver chain. It's kind of an unusual size. I had to, you know, shorten the steel chain up to work. I had to make the Holtzfforma chain work for it. But, you know, it's one of those things. But anyway, yeah, kind of my little rant. Probably a little too much of a rant, you know what I mean? But some of my opinion on the rules for racing and the chains and stuff. Something I feel probably should change in the future. I mean, the chain manufacturers are putting these profiles on their chains because they know speed sells. And we cannot duplicate them with a round file. It's just not possible. So, I mean, unless they want to change the rules where you have to run a round file and they're going to inspect every saw, you know, right? You can't do it. It just physically cannot do it. You'd have to inspect the saw right before it races. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't give people a gap of time. You know, you could not run the race and then have them come back 20 minutes later to inspect the saw. They can go back and change the chain out to a round one. You know, it creates a big hassle. Just, I don't know. It's my opinion on the matter. I think it should be lifted for racing in this situation. In fact, a lot of races you see out there, they don't care. As long as it's actually common to say, run any chain you want, just don't do chassis modifications, which, you know, that's common too. So yeah, anyway, hey, we'll catch you on the next one.